Waking up this morning felt like a logistical problem, but though I haven't solved it, I have identified what the problem is. I am large. No, Flannery, say it outright. I am fat. I forgot to pull my shades down last night, so morning came on like gangbusters. The sun reminded me of that woman riding 6 white horses and coming round the mountain. Then I began to feel like the mountain. I moved one leg, then the other, to the floor. Gradually I became aware of how much room even half my body took up in this bed. It was startling. I remove half my body from the bed, and my bed stays full. Now, either Archimedes was wrong, and none of us really take up any space at all, or I just hadn't noticed my full load lately. If only half of me fills the bed, I wondered to myself sleepily, is that because I have small legs, or is it for some other reason? Small legs, fat chance. I walked into the bathroom, and the scales simultaneously rose beneath my feet and fell from my eyes. I'm not going to write down the number here in this expensive Italian leather-bound journal, but rest assured, for those who crave statistics, that the sum of my parts is truly elephantine. All that bullshit I was crowing to Gabriel down by the lake, how there's no attraction between us, all that isn't rooted in some achieved platonic ideal. It's rooted in my own generous thighs. I looked at myself in the mirror, naked, and assessed myself like the headmistress of a girls' finishing school. I'm large and ugly. It's funny. You'd think that ugliness is pretty much innate and that there isn't anything you can do about it. But if you think about it logically, that's not true. After all, I'm not just ugly, I'm also large. If I were smaller, there wouldn't just be less of the largeness, there'd be less of the ugliness, too. And if someone has less ugliness than they did before, one could just as well say they have more beauty. Hey. Hey, Flan, it's Kate. I was just wondering, do you have the Bradstreet readings written down? Oh, yeah, I left that in my locker, I think. I can get that to you, tomorrow. I need to ask you something, Kate. If one person were less ugly than another, we could also say they were more beautiful, right? What are you talking about? Does this have to do with Adam? He's coming tonight, you know. I know. There's no way that I'm going to be small and beautiful by tonight. No, this doesn't have to do with Adam. I'm just asking, theoretically, if a person got less ugly, could it be said that they got more beautiful? Well, this is just theoretical. Right, theoretical. You know, like any intellectual conversation. Well, I would have to disagree with your statement. Martin Luther King said that peace was not merely the absence of violence, but the presence of a positive force, or something like that. And I think it's the same thing with beauty. I mean, you don't look at some vast and beautiful landscape and think, there's nothing ugly here. Yeah, okay. I'll talk to you later, Kate. Bye. Kate's well-meaning smokescreen hasn't foiled my unshakable logic, and I will extend it further. A less fat body makes a more beautiful person, so we need something that makes a less fat body, and of course we all know what makes a body less fat: less food. When I think of all the food I consumed just last night, I am sick at my extravagance, and judging from my fat legs, my fat stomach, even my fat arms, this sort of extravagance goes on all the time. All that Thai food I ate last night, for instance, that chicken dish and those greasy fried egg rolls, the grease of which luckily seems to have found its way to my hair instead of my body. The chocolate-covered mints at the movie. I will hereby dismiss again my justification that dieting is some tacky middle American bourgeois pastime. It is very sensible dieting, simply eating less food and thus becoming more beautiful. To no other problem in life is there such an elegant solution. To start my diet, I will not eat anything until the dinner party tonight, and then I will only eat sensibly. Just salad, perhaps. No longer will I allow myself to become as large as any of the obstacles that separate Adam and me from each other. To keep my mind off food, I will do some schoolwork. thus also taking care of my other cardinal sin besides gluttony, academic sloth. I will read Anne Bradstreet, another disciplined woman. If there are any seeds of doubt in my mind as to whether I really loved Adam or just some image of Adam, they were all killed by the frost that was tonight's dinner party. No, wait, that sounds like it was some cold, deadly evening. I mean the opposite. I guess I mean that if the flower of my love for Adam was being stunted by any feelings of doubt, then tonight fully fertilized my seed and allowed it to grow. That works if you don't think about the fact that fertilizer is made of shit. I guess it's obvious I've had wine, but the evening was magical, 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 and I want to write it down before it evaporates into the night air like streams of sensual smoke. Gabriel gave me a ride to Kate's, which meant we had to arrive early so Gabriel could start cooking. Gabriel is terribly, terribly fussy about his culinarities, and never lets us do anything, not even chop, so Kate and I sat at the kitchen table and speculated on possibilities concerning Jennifer Rose Milton's love life, while Gabriel marinated some snapper and chopped red peppers with such ferocity that the off-white tiles of Kate's kitchen looked positively gory. Gabriel had a pure white apron over a very handsome coat and tie, and kept smiling at me. Natasha arrived bearing cleavage and brie, and immediately fell into a squabble with Gabriel over how to bake it properly. Kate and I sat basking in the pretentiousness of it all. "I have a full pound of celery to chop, and it's already 6:45, Gabriel said, wiping his hands on his apron. They left faint red handprints like the frantic last failings of a victim. Who could have known? "I'm telling you, Gabe," she said, incurring his least favorite of her nicknames for him. He preferred Riel, pronounced real, or Gull, pronounced gull. "A tablespoon of olive oil. It gives the whole thing some lubrication." "To most areas where knowledge of lubrication is key, I yield to your expertise. But olive oil on brie? This isn't fucking mozzarella, Natasha." "Hey, now," I said. Gabriel seemed unusually tense, even for a new recipe. "Do I have to separate you two?" They continued to glare at each other, and it struck me that maybe there was something going on that I didn't know about. "For God's sake," Kate said, and flounced across the kitchen. She picked up the Palatial Palette cookbook and thumbed through the index. The two litigants stood stock still, Gabriel, arms akimbo, Natasha clutching the brie like Hamlet holding the skull, waiting for Kate to make her decision. She played it to the hilt, flipped pages, flipped pages, flipped pages. Finally she spoke. I quote directly from Ms. Julia Mann in her section on brie baking. "The addition of any oil to brie, or any other soft ripening cheese, prior to baking, is redundant at best, disastrous at worst." Gabriel tried not very hard to conceal a smug grin. Natasha glowered first at Gabriel, then at Kate, then for no good reason me. You could hear a pin drop. And then a brie. It was wrapped in plastic so there wasn't a mess, but the fall to the floor left the cheese looking wounded and misshapen. It was such a pathetic sight that I couldn't help but giggle, and in one of those magical tension-loosening moments that I believe float aimlessly around the planet, easing awkward situations worldwide, everyone broke out laughing. Gabriel put his arm around Natasha, and Natasha put her arm around Gabriel, and there we were, all laughing in a circle around a fallen brie, when Adam walked in. The first thing I saw were his shoes, which were black and thick, the direct opposite of Adam, come to think of it. My eyes just went up his jeans, up the row of buttons on his Oxford, on even like a lazy fence out in the country somewhere, up his freshly shaven chin to his smile to his bright green eyes, and I felt myself fall right into his pupils. "The door was open," he said apologetically, peering over Natasha's shoulder at the fallen cheese. "That's because we wanted you to come in," Kate said charmingly, standing up on tiptoe and kissing him on each cheek. Gabriel snorted and went back to the cutting board. Natasha picked up the cheese with one hand and extended her other one to Adam. "Hello, Adam," she said demurely. Kate returned the cookbook to the cupboard, clearing a path between Adam and Flannery. Their eyes met across the nearly empty room. "Flannery," he said, and smiled. "Flannery," he said, and smiled. "Flannery," he said, and smiled. Smiled, smiled, smiled. Not only did he smile at me, he said my name, and there wasn't a question mark after it, as in, "Your name is Flannery, am I right?" Nor was it a simple cold acknowledgment, as in, "I recognize you, but I'd much rather talk to Natasha, who has cleavage." He smiled. I think, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we can surmise he was glad to see me. "Hi," I said. "I'm glad you could make it." "Me too," he said. Our eyes met and locked, and I know it's corny to say that, but what the hell, it's late at night, I'm a little tipsy, and besides, it's my own journal, so who cares? Kate coughed slightly and we came to. Adam blushed slightly even, but his shirt was pure white, so it just made him glow even more. Don't think I don't realize the drippiness of this prose.